Hi, and thank you for tuning in to a new episode about the Japanese STF uniforms and unique airsoft. In this episode we're going to talk about the 4 major weapons that are still currently in use by the Vietnamese Armed Forces and militia armed forces. Before we begin, hit the bell notification button, subscribe to this channel, let me know in the comment section down below what is your favorite weapon if you were serving in the Vietnamese Armed Forces. Share this video with your friends and family if they are really interested in weapons itself. Without further ado, let's start this video. The first weapon is the most popularly used at the moment in Vietnam is the AK-47. Even the copy Chinese version is still in use to this day. There are plenty of ammunition and weapons in storage facilities, but because they are slowly replacing the AK-47 to a new assault rifle is developed by the Israelis in 7.62 x 39. So the AK-47 will be the main standard weapon of the Vietnamese Armed Forces and militia. The Armed Forces like the AK-47 because it is simple, easy to clean and easy to maintain, especially easy to manufacture. That are the most important things when a country has not enough resources for itself. So an AK-47, easy to maintain and reliable as possible and cheap to build, has become one of the main standard weapon of the Vietnamese Armed Forces and militia. But also the militia forces are also currently using the AK-47, also the Type 56, a Chinese copy of the AK-47. Some of the AKs have worn out eventually over time, the barrels have been replaced, and even the wood stock has been replaced by plastic furniture. And that's really interesting to see that they really doing their best to maintain their stockpile of weapons that they currently having. Some weapons are really dating back to the Vietnam War, but it's really interesting that even the militia forces having this weapon in inventory. But there are not enough AKs go around. So the second weapon is currently used is the M16A1 and the M16A2 and the AR-15 whole family in caliber 5.56 NATO cartridge, used by the South Vietnamese Army and even the United States back during the Vietnam War. It used a gas tube system to reuse the gas system itself, really reliable, and were more than 700,000 were left behind and are not destroyed. The other half are still using by the Vietnamese Armed Forces, by Special Forces, Naval Forces, only the carbine version then. They really like the weapon itself because it is in firepower, in compact scenarios and for urban environments. But you see, if you look really closely, you see that some parts are still from the Vietnam War, or some parts have been replaced by new plastic furniture. Like this M16 for example, it's using orange plastic furniture instead of the black one. So far I have not seen any other M16 using this, but it is really interesting to see it. But the M16, like the AK-47, is also trained by one of the officers, putting a mirror and check that the militia soldier is on target itself. If they want to have if they want to shoot, if they want to fire single shot fire, they have to aim really carefully. So every shot must count. So they must put an accurate fire to the target, and even a moving target. But they will not using live ammunition in the beginning. They must hold up the weapon precisely. They see that the soldier must aim their weapon directly to the target and aim it correctly before firing. And that makes it really interesting that they also thinking a sort of a one-shot, one-kill scenario, but firepower is still the main purpose. The M16 is the second most interesting and popular weapon in the South Vietnamese part of the country. It's still using the M16, but it will eventually phased out sooner or later by the armed forces, and the rest of the weapons will given by the militia. But even M16 warehouses will worn out eventually sooner or later, so the parts will have to be replaced by new furniture, and with the better relations, US giving supplies of M16 parts to the Vietnamese factories to maintain their arsenal of M16s. And that is a really interesting on developing that the M16 is still used to this day. The weapon on this list is the FKS rifle, developed in 1945 using a long-stroke gas piston. This weapon was very used during the Vietnam War all the way to this day. We've seen this weapon only used by honor guards who guarding the mausoleum from Ho Chi Minh in Hanoi itself, and even the militia forces. The most seen with SKS models, the Russian version and the Chinese version. This SKS is used in 10-round box magazine. You can feed strip it with a stripper clip, or you can using your hands one at a time, and that is a really advantage. The advantage from the SKS is there's a low recoil and a good accuracy at 400 meters. And at the same time, with all other weapons, they are easy to maintain, easy to produce, and easy to clean. And within a few seconds you have this SKS in all parts on the table. The SKS is one of my favorite rifles developed by the Soviet Union at the time. And it's really interesting that the Vietnamese militia is also currently using the SKS. Because it is so many supplies of 7.62 by 39 caliber are so much in storage facilities in Vietnam, they decided to keep the SKS for the militia armed forces. The downside is it's a long weapon, but at the same time it is a really robust weapon for jungle warfare. The last one on the list is the M1 Garand rifle, used during World War II, and most people know it as by General George Patton, the greatest battle implement ever devised. It used a long straw gas piston underneath on the weapon, 8-round M-block clip, and the last round you heard the stinging sound ping, and it is a really interesting weapon. It was extensively used during the Vietnam War, but after the unification, hundreds of thousands of M1 Garands were found in storage facilities or on the battlefield. So the Vietnamese government decided to keep them in stock for a while, because there is also many supply of 30-06 cartridges still left in Vietnam itself. But even in 2021, the Vietnamese militia forces are still using this weapon to this day, especially in the south. It was such a popular weapon actually that they decided to keep it with a cartridge 30-06, a really powerful cartridge, and an M-block clip with 8 rounds capacity. Not much for the armed forces, but for militia who are trained not with a high capacity like a regular soldier to mainly maintain ambushes and guerrilla warfare, the M1 Garand is suited for that. All their equipment are almost identical. They're using the front pouches from the AK-47 or the SKS. And even competitions between the militia units are also from time to time. And that makes it a really interesting topic, that the M1 Garand is still serviced to this day. I have shot the M1 Garand in Vietnam last year in 2020 February, and it was a really interesting development, because the M1 Garand is one of my favorite rifles from World War II, and it is really interesting that the Vietnamese are still using it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It is not a list. The first one is my best weapon, and the fourth one is the less popular. It is just a list that the weapons are still currently used by the Vietnamese militia and armed forces. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comment section down below what is your favorite weapon if you were serving or you are serving in the Vietnamese armed forces. So hope to see you next time, and hit the bell notification button and like this video. See you next time.